Hi everyone, welcome to Echoes of Men, a safe space where men can open up, share their feelings and struggles, and have honest conversations with someone who's been through mental health challenges and continues to grow and learn every day. Here, your stories matter. We will learn from each other. Don't forget to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is your safe space. Hi Andrea,
Hi, nice.
how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Welcome to the Echoes of Men. I'm really glad that you're here today. Thanks for your time as well.
Right.
We've been trying to do this video, to record it for some time.
Yeah.
But we haven't been able, obviously, to find the time. That's why I'm thankful with you, today for coming. I said that I wanted to record this podcast with someone, with people, with men that I felt connected with. I think we connected in a way, especially yesterday,
Yeah.
that we came to a conversation where you told me that you were an only child.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm an only child as well. But you were raised in a different environment.
Yeah.
Which made me think about it and which made me wonder, how is it to grow in that environment? So I want you to introduce me to yourself and
So
what does it feel and how it was for you?
so I was born here. My father is Maltese and my mother is Italian. My she's been living in Malta for longer than she's lived in Italy. So she came here a long time ago. And I grew up here. So when people ask me where are you from, I feel Maltese. I say I'm Maltese. I'm half Italian as well, but I never lived in Italy. I have kind of the Italian blood and the Italian way of doing things sometimes, but I feel Maltese. But then my father was a diplomat for 8 or 9 years. And because of that, I got to live in places that I never dreamed I would ever go to. I lived in Beijing for 4 years when I was a kid. You move to this place, and I'll be honest, I had no idea where this place was until I got on the plane. Every time my mother would tell me, "Oh, we're going to move here," I would think, "I don't know where this place is." And
How old were you?
I was 7 when we moved. Yeah, so I was quite young, and I always had to ask my mom, "Mom, what's the name of the country that we're moving to?" Because it just didn't click until I got on the plane and went. And then after Beijing, we spent 4.5, 5 years in Berlin. And then I came back to Malta when I was 16, and then when I was 19, I went to university in England for. It was supposed to be 3 years, and then COVID cut it short. So it was 2 years, and I came back, did my last year from here, and then I've been back in Malta since. So yeah.
And how was it for you to move to China when you were 7 years old?
Was it?
Remember?
Yeah, I remember. No, I remember everything. Mainly because everything was new. I didn't know what it felt like to move somewhere and not have anything to relate to. You move to a country that China was a closed country up until 20 years before I had moved there. And it was quite rare to see a foreigner, for example. And we arrived there and everyone was looking at us like, "Oh, foreigners. And it's just one of those things where you think, "Oh, where have I come?" I mean, everyone's coming to look at you, and I was scared. I was honestly scared. But then I grew to love the place. And if someone asked me today, would you move back? I'd say 100% yes. Because it's one of those places where culture explodes now. Because it was so close before. Living in China as a foreigner, as a diplomat or as an expat, the international community is very, very close, very, very tight. And a lot of my friends were from all over the world, not just but nationalities, religions, cultures,
I think kids of diplomats as well.
Yeah, exactly. Kids of diplomats. It's funny. It's like we're a certain breed, and everyone children of diplomats, they can always relate to each other. Oh, I remember when, for example, we had to move countries within 2 weeks to pick everything up, go to another country, start again, and you don't know the language, you don't even know where you're going to be living. And it brings a sense of, how can I say it? It's like you don't know where home is.
Okay.
And we always think of home as your safe space. But the reality is that when you move around, you understand that your safe space is not home. It's wherever you make it or whoever you have around. That's your safe space. The place where you're living, that's just the place where you're living. Yeah, with my mom and dad. Yeah, only child.
So it was your safe space, I guess.
Yeah.
So you never felt that like they left you or
No,
you
no,
were
no.
with your dad and your mom stayed.
No. It was something that we did as a family.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to a story the other day and the guy, he's an actor. His wife is an actress. And they have 2 kids. And when they started the relationship, they agreed between each other that for example, if he has to make a movie and it's more than a month, they would move all together for as long as the movie is like recorded, And I think that's a good thing, because as a child, what you need is protection from your parents, and you need presence, physical presence.
Yeah.
So by doing that, your child, will never miss his father or his mother, or the father of her mother, which is good. So I think for you that was very important, not to be with your dad and your mother at the same time.
I think also what's important when you have situations like this is that you are always together. And when you have that sense of togetherness from a young age, when you get older and you go through difficult times, then you have that basis from when you're young. It's one of those things where you always know where you can fall back on. I mean, later on we'll speak about it, but when I was in my teens, that really was important for me, that I had my parents, a strong connection with both my parents. And we always did things together. If we had to move countries, it was okay, do it together. We'll enjoy it. We'll make the best out of it.
Do you remember that you struggled at some point?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did.
Well, moving countries.
I did. The first time when we moved to China, it was, I don't know where I'm going. I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to miss out on, I don't want to leave my football team because I really enjoyed it. And my parents always explained to me that, we are going to have a very unique experience. We're going to build our life in this country, and we're going to make friends that we would have never met if we wouldn't have left. So I definitely struggled. I felt alone. It's funny because when I was that young, I didn't know what feeling alone was.
Okay. You just have a feeling?
Yeah, kind of like, okay, so who can I go and play with? Like, where's the park? We're living in a compound full of diplomats. And I thought, I'm going to go kick the ball in the park on my own. And then you go, and there's some children of some diplomats from the time it was from Angola or from Ghana. You don't speak the same language, but you're kicking a ball around. And that's it, so you start, exactly. And I think that's one of the first times I understood talking the same languages doesn't always have to be the only way you can communicate. It can be through food, coffee, football, whatever you want. So that was one of the first times I understood understanding point in time where I knew I felt alone, because then I had found people that I had something in common with. As I got older, I definitely understood what it felt to feel alone. One, as an only child. Two, when I used to come back to Malta for the summers, all my friends had started to make their own little friend groups, and they had their own sports teams. And I was the guy that came for 2 months. Oh, hi, yes, we used to be best friends, and I would try and integrate. And at a certain point, you understand, we grew up together, fine, but we're gonna go on our different paths. And what I found really difficult to accept is, but we grew up together. Why are you doing this? And you get to the point where you say, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. You figure out your own thing. So yeah, when I was a teenager, that was hard, because you move, you come back here, you have all your friends in another country, and you're here. And I used to go to the beach every day with my parents alone. And you try and get in contact with friends, and they say, oh, yes, I can come. And then they don't show up. Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, you figure out they're actually not going to show up. And then I realized, you know what? I'm not going to stay feeling anxious. Because I used to feel anxious.
So you understood at that time?
Yeah.
What was anxiety?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite at a...
But were you acknowledging that? Or
yeah,
you were just I might have something inside that I'm feeling?
Well, this is the thing, and I want to go back to when I moved from Malta to China. I was very fortunate to go to an international school that had a very big student support department, that had teachers that specialized in teaching through different methods, but also there were some educational psychologists that worked within the school. This was the kind of school where back in 2006, if you had ADHD, if you were hyperactive, if you had dyslexia, for example, this school already catered for everything. It was all about inclusion. And at the school there, they know what it's like when the children come and go. It happens every year. You'd have 300 kids leaving, 400 kids coming. It's a school where it was full of expats and diplomats. So that was the norm. Every year, you have friends that come and friends that go. At a certain point, you start to have conversations when you're young with the teachers would speak and say, we all know that now it's like the end of the year. Let's talk about, are we happy that we're moving on to the next year? Or how are we feeling about the fact that you are moving to another country? And it's these small things when you're young, but then when you get older, the topic is not as what's the word, as daunting or as intimidative, so I was quite lucky with that, and it was quite unique.
And I think as soon as you arrive there, they start like a process with you, right?
Yeah.
Like of psychology.
Yeah.
Trying to give support.
Yeah.
Especially, because when you come from other countries.
Exactly. And
people to adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. And there's one other thing as well. There was as much support for the students as there were for the parents. And
because I think they struggle.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
I think they struggle more than the kids because kids are more adaptive,
Yeah.
I would say that.
Yeah.
As an adult, it's harder for you to adapt to a situation.
Yeah.
That for a kid, because a kid is just like
put them somewhere they'll play. Yeah. No, but I can remember a couple of instances where there was one day, it was within my first year in Beijing, the school called my parents. And they said, listen, we think that Andrea has a kind of learning difficulty, right? And my mom says the story to a lot of people that she's close with. Because in Malta, there's a bit of a stigma with, mental health in teenagers, mental health in general. And so the school called her in, right? And I had a teacher, she was Miss Billings, Kristen Billings, her name was. And she was from Chicago, right? She sat down with my parents, and this is from what my mother told me. Listen, we think that Andrea, he's a very good student, but he learns in a different way. We think that he may have a learning difficulty, right? And my mom, because she didn't really know those words, or maybe it was even the fact that it was within the first 3 months of moving to China, that she was preoccupied or had other priorities, and she didn't expect this. She almost thought the worst in the sense that, are we going to have to get him specialized help all the time? It was the unknown, the extent of the unknown. Exactly. And what we ended up finding out is that I've got a shorter memory than most people. So things to do with like reading novels, I just can't do that. I can't picture the story in my head. So when I was younger, when all my classmates were reading novels, for literature or whatever, it used to drive me mad. I used to get angry almost because I couldn't do it. But then, for example, things like current affairs and things to do with geopolitics, as a 7-year-old, I used to be all into it to a certain extent, because when you're 7, you don't understand everything. But I was more interested in what was going on at that point in time than reading a novel. It was just almost like a different interest. This learning difficulty that they figured out that I had when I was 7, I did some tests as well. So it's actually documented. When I was 13 or 14, we kind of figured out it was ADHD as well. And that was a big eye-opener, because I think when you have ADHD, you just have to do things in a different way.
And you feel different as well.
You can feel different. It's a journey. It's an up and down. There's no day that's the same. A lot of people, they think about ADHD, and I'm very passionate about this. When people talk about ADHD, they see a big wall. They see this thing, or at least here in Malta, they see this thing where
just the word, scares people, I think.
Yeah,
because they didn't understand what it means.
Exactly.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Exactly.
It's something bad.
It's how you apply. You have to learn how to cope with it. The school in China is fantastic. Taught me all the skills. When I moved to Berlin, the same thing. They had the same kind of department. I work in a job now where I know how to use the ADHD to my advantage. And I get a certain sense of satisfaction from it. But the important thing is accepting that you will do things in a different way. And there will be people that will judge you for it. people have an opinion. Doesn't mean you have to listen to it.
And I think people expect, others to do things, their way. And
Yeah.
they do it because they think that's the
Yeah.
right way to do it.
Yeah.
There are many ways to do the same thing and come to the same result,
Yeah.
And I think you have found that way
I think
in every sense in life.
yeah, but not without its difficulties and difficulties. Without its learning points along the way. I once, just before COVID, my mother was working with the ADHD NGO here in Malta, and I was at university, and they had asked me to come and speak to some parents about what my experience with ADHD is. And the first thing I told them, because I was trying to think, how can I explain to people that are scared about what this thing is? I was thinking about it. I thought, we're in Malta, there's traffic all the time. For me, ADHD is simple. I have to get from point A to point B, and the usual road is full of roadblocks and car accidents and diversions. So I have to find another way to get to where I'm going. For me, that is what ADHD is. It's about understanding your strengths and applying them to get the best results you can get. And some people just can't understand the concept.
And I think understanding as well your weaknesses.
We
all have weaknesses.
You have to embrace them.
Exactly.
You have to embrace them. You have to accept the fact that there's going to be some days where you're going to sit at your desk, or you're going to sit at home, or you're going to sit on the couch, and your brain is going to be saying, I have to do this, 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 and this. And your body's saying, nope. There are going to be some days where I'm literally in the office. I would have done, 2 proper weeks of real work, just always on the go, being extremely productive. Then I have 2 or 3 days where I'm just like, stop, You have to accept it. Because you can't, there's this pace that we're expected to always keep, It's unsustainable.
There's a message.
Yeah.
And you cannot fight with your brain.
No, you can't.
Physical health, let's say.
No, you can't.
You cannot. Did you ever experience like rejection for having ADHD or?
Yeah.
From family?
No, from family, no, because from my mother's side, my uncle had it, and he had it in the 60s. It was a big taboo thing. He was the hyperactive kid in the class. He was always sent into the corner. From my dad's side, I think that there's something there, because all of my dad's siblings, my dad is one of 4, they're all incredibly intelligent, extremely dedicated, good at what they do. But there's something there. I don't know what it is. Can't figure it out. They just some of them, they're just good at what they do, but they don't know when to stop. Yes. But yeah, I do have quite a couple of experiences with rejection. But and actually, I had 2 experiences, all within the same year. And the first one was this was in Berlin, at the school in Berlin. So because I had ADHD, I could never sit still. Sit in the math lesson. I'm bored out of my mind. But I always liked a logical thought process. So when you're learning how to do algebra, there's kind of logic to it. And if you don't learn the logic, and you don't do things in a certain way, you're gonna get mixed up, right? So I had this teacher. I won't mention her name because I can't stand her. But she was from a Chinese background, and the Chinese, they will only teach the elite. They'll neglect everyone else for the most part. And so at that age, you had your homeroom class with all your lessons. Then as you got older, they would split the whole grade into different levels. But that year we were all together. And I wasn't doing well. Couple reasons. One, I couldn't follow. I kept on asking questions, and I know what help I need. I'm very conscious of it, and I knew I wasn't getting it. And at a certain point, I said that I wasn't going to get it. And unfortunately, that made me fall out of my love with math. And she actually told my parents, your son is not good at math. In a parent-teacher conference. Now my parents they were extremely angry. Because they know me, that they know that I'm not someone that just sits there and does nothing. Fast forward 2 years, they had put us in, this was still in Germany, they split the grade into levels, and they put me in the lowest level. Fine, whatever. No. Fine. And they had put a teacher. His name is Mr. Padyukov. And there's a reason why I'm saying his name. Because a lot of students didn't like him. He had a very particular way of teaching. Very acquired taste. 80% of students were always complaining about him. With him, the first lesson I had, I remember, I went up there with a brick wall. I was ready to fight with him because he can pass comments that maybe he shouldn't be passing certain comments. And I was going there like ready to have a big argument with this guy if he said one thing that was out of line. And I went into this lesson and I thought, right, 5 minutes in, he hasn't insulted well, he hasn't insulted me yet. He's been, I think, quite funny, offended a few people, but fine, you know? And the lesson was 80 minutes. After 3/4 of an hour, like, what should I say? Shit, I like how he's writing things down. There was a very logical process. And I don't know if I mentioned, he was Russian. And the way he would write on the whiteboard, he doesn't miss a single step. There was a logic, a thought process. Now, he always used to teach the most advanced group. So that year, they put him with the lowest level group. Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing for me, because of him, loved math. I loved his lessons because he allowed you to challenge him to see a different point of view. And because of that, I understood how I can apply the basics of it. I mean, some people are going to listen to this and think, what the hell is this guy going on about? But it's the kind of thing where I fell back in love with the subject. And my parents had a parent-teacher conference with him. And he told them one thing. Don't you ever let someone say that he's not good with numbers. He's great with numbers. He's great with patterns. He sees things in a different way and he thinks and he will always try to find a solution, which is how I was taught 10 years before. If you have a problem, you try and find a solution. You know, that brings me to my next point. When you're at school, sometimes it's not about the subject or how good you are. It's about how good the teacher is. And the skills that he taught me when I was 13, 14, I use them now.
And we were talking about it before starting the podcast, you know, about how important teachers are for kids, you know, for our development as a human, as a person. Why? Because apart from besides our family, our father and our mother, I think teachers are the third most important thing in our lives.
Yeah.
Why? Because we spend like half of our life as a child, you know, in school.
Yeah.
And we learn things at home, but most of the things we learn them in school.
I'll take you one step further. When you're an expat or a diplomat and you're spending 8-9 months living in mission, so in the country where you posted or where your parents were posted to, you don't see your family as often as you would if you were in your home country. You end up going to events at the schools on the weekend where the community is built. So you see your teachers almost every day. Closest friends, his name's Ben Dutton. He's he was my PE teacher, my football coach at the school in Berlin. We're now very, very close. He's now living in Guangzhou in China. He's the athletic director of the international school there. He was great. He was great. He was a mentor for me. I would have a lesson with him at least once usually it was just once a day, but then after school, football training with the team and stuff, he was always there. And I would spend more time with him, with my teachers, with my classmates, than at home. And not to say that my parents weren't there, but it was just the reality of, okay, I'm at school from 8:30 in the morning and I come home at 6. 4 hours at home.
Crazy.
You know?
I don't give the importance to teachers.
No.
Some of them, I don't think they realize that everything that they teach a child, you know, they will apply it in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that pisses me off sometimes, you know, because teachers, they should be like more, how can I say this? More on their feet, you know?
Yeah.
When they're
dynamic, they need to be, yeah.
Because you're teaching the future at the end.
Yeah.
Whatever they teach the kids, they're going to apply it in their lives, starting from manners.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Manners are super important. I think kindness is super important.
Yeah.
And I think those signatures, we should see them in the school as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
The health, how to deal with problems in life. I mean, mathematics, you know, maths, they give you that logic that you need in life, obviously, a part of that logic. But I think we should get in school, you know, what you said you had in the international school.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is people learn different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Definitely.
It's that simple.
But we should have those type of signatures, you know, in school, where we can learn self-development, where we can learn how to deal with our emotions.
Yeah.
Those things I think are super important, especially right now.
Yeah.
That technology is taking over, that we're losing, and I've said this, you know, in my podcast already.
Yeah.
we're losing human connection,
Yeah, no, we are.
and it's super important.
We are. I think what's important as well is technology is the approach we have. The majority of people approach it as it's there, it's easy to use, and I'm just going to use it. Technology should be there to assist you.
To replace you.
No, not to repair, and not, you should still apply yourself. I mean, something stupid like ChatGPT, right? You're writing an email and you're tired and you think, okay, I can't really proofread this, and you copy and paste into ChatGPT, so can you proofread this and make sure it doesn't sound like it's going in circles? And it's one thing if you use it when you're tired a couple times a week, but I'll admit it, sometimes I catch myself using it more often. So it's like I know how to do it, but I'm almost being lazy, which is bad.
You depend on it.
Exactly, and it shouldn't be that way, Yeah, I remember my second failure, same year, learning German. Right now, German's not an easy language to learn.
That was the second time they felt rejected.
Yeah, so the math one was the first one. The second one was my German teacher. In Berlin, yeah. And I was in the first year, I was in the beginner class. Again, I was so not interested, so I was barely paying attention, but I picked up some words, a lot more than... The thing is, I picked up words and I wasn't afraid to use them. So say little phrases here and there, and the grammar was terrible, but I had the confidence to speak. Second year, they put me back in the beginner's class again, which was a complete waste of time. And I was completely unmotivated. And I had an oral exam, and my teacher failed me because she said, your grammar is not good. And but when you're a beginner, the whole point is get the confidence to speak. It doesn't matter if you're going to get, the perfect grammar, which in Germany is perfect. So I was really annoyed with her. So I told her to go fuck herself in perfect grammar. It got up and left. And then they called my parents. And my parents told the high school principal, you do realize why he did that, because he's bored, and you're not challenging him. So there was a big argument going on within the school, and I just hated those 2 hours of the week. I hated it. And the irony is that, so I was in Berlin for 4.5 years. At the international school, we had German lessons. It was 80 minutes a week. So I was there for 4.5 years. Fourth year that I was there, I started playing for a German football club. I learned more in 2 months playing football in a German team than I did in 3 years at the international school. Why? Because it was a different environment, and all my teammates were German. There wasn't a single foreigner. There was one German guy that had an Italian grandfather that could speak a little bit of Italian. The coach was German-Turkish, Cem, who was fantastic coach, fantastic mentor. For me, he reminds me of these coaches like Pep Guardiola, the guys that they want to understand their players, and they want, not even their players, the kids, they feel responsibility to understand what's going on, the person. And if you can understand the person, then you can understand how to get the best out of them.
That's amazing.
Right? And so, yeah, I mean, so I was there within 2-3 months talking German. And the funny thing was, all my teammates were trying to speak in English to me. So it was like this back and forth thing. It was great. Whatever it was a great bond. It was a great bond. But it was the best team I ever played with. Some of them, but the thing is, everyone kind of goes their separate ways. I remember I was in Berlin a couple years after, and I'd gone to visit a friend for a long weekend. I was sitting in a coffee shop, and there was I didn't recognize who it was, but there was a teammate of mine, and his grandfather, and this teammate of mine was walking ahead, and the grandfather was walking a bit behind. And the grandfather came into the coffee shop and came and told me, I am Jacob's grandfather. I remember you when you used to play in Hertha with him. And I remember you were so good. You were so nice with all the boys. It was such a fantastic group. What's going on? And then I started to make the connection. And then I saw Jacob, and it came out. I couldn't believe it. It was almost too good to be true, But no, it was, I think, one of my happiest times. And the irony is that it was my happiest time, but the hardest at the same time, because there was an election in 2013 here, and my father had lost his job because the government had changed. So we had complete uncertainty. We didn't know if we were going to be in Germany in 2 weeks or a week, right? So originally what happened in 2013, so he got sacked. The government changed, and we came back to Malta. And then within 2 months, we came back to Malta in July. We started looking at schools, and then a month later, my father had gotten an opportunity to go back to Berlin. So I had said goodbye to all my friends. Bear in mind that they told us to leave 2 weeks before school ended. And we had been asking them for 3 months.
Guys, come on, it's just 2 weeks.
But you know what? There's so many positives of living the diplomatic life, and that's one of the negatives. You don't have a choice. It's so unsettling, and you feel lost. You feel angry. I felt so angry.
And did it affect you?
Oh yeah, it did. It did. At that period of time in 2013, everything had gone wrong. Everything had gone wrong. My mom's brother, my uncle, he dropped dead. Massive heart attack, completely unexpected. So first we had the election in March 2013, and we lost. May 2013, my uncle had a massive heart attack and died. June, they told us to pack everything and leave. So it was just one thing after another. Can I just breathe? And no, it just kept on coming. And then in August 2013, my dad had gotten an opportunity to go back to Berlin, so we went. We're in Berlin, and then all of a sudden, that opportunity disappeared. No, so we stayed in Berlin. And my father said, okay, I'm in Berlin now. I'm going to try and find something. So eventually, he found something, but he was going up and down from Malta. I wasn't happy anymore. I wanted the family to be together.
But you were in Berlin?
I was in Berlin with my mom.
Okay, he was coming and going.
Yeah, and there was a point I didn't see my dad for 3 months, I think. And it was hard. It was hard. I was speaking to my dad every day on the phone, but it's different. My parents, when I had football training every day, my parents were always there, all the time. My parents were at every single game. There wasn't one game they missed. Maybe one. 18 years. Football game, basketball game, whatever it was. They were, at least one of them, they were always there. And they really enjoyed it. And they were there sitting in the beach, the canvas-like beach chairs. You can pack them up and put them in the car. My mom used to come. It would be -20 outside, right, in Beijing, in dead of winter. And we'd be there playing football, with this, beanie on, wrapped up really cold, running around. She was there watching the whole time. There were some other parents, one on a step machine, right? And so you really had this sense of a really strong family bond. And I'm someone that if I know someone very close to me is going through a hard time, I unfortunately would make that problem my problem. And that was a really bad thing. And that's something I had to learn, that I cannot control. There's some things that are just simply out of my control. And I have to accept that. The only thing I can control is what I can touch, what I can do. Everything else you just have to accept, out of your control,
But it's hard to learn.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing to learn.
For me, the hardest thing about that was to accept and to realize situations where it's out of my control. Now I look back and I think I find it quite easy to say, okay, I can do this much. Then what's going to happen with the result is it's not dependent on me at all. I have my role. I know what I have to do, but the outcome is a bigger picture, and the bigger picture, I'm just a tiny part of it. So yeah, that was one of the hardest things. And going back to when we lost the election and not knowing what was going to happen, that was the hardest thing. Because I would then come home, and in my head I would think, okay, I'm going to come home now, and we'll know what's going to happen.
How did you deal with that?
I beat my mind was going crazy. That's where I had the anxiety. That's where I had the anger. That's where I had the resentment. And the resentment, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of sympathy for politicians, especially politicians that go on the news and they say, my family didn't sign up for this. I said, I'm sorry. Decided to become a politician. You made the conscious decision that you want to be out there. Don't come and say that my children have the right to have a private life. I was not allowed. And you can see with my body language, I'm angry about it. I was not allowed to have a private life at the age of 7. I was not allowed to have an opinion. I had to respect what other people's opinions were. And if I didn't agree with it, I had to be very careful how I would express that.
So basically you had a book of rules.
Yeah. But the funny thing was that we never got that book of rules. It's something that my parents learned on the job, and it's something that they taught me. And even I did an IB system, which is Swiss. It's an international system where the emphasis on the knowledge is learning from different points of view, different sources, different languages as well, because languages are reflective of the culture that they come from, and things are written in certain ways, and they can give you certain perceptions. That's education system taught me. Okay, I have this opinion. Other people may have a different opinion and how they see it. What's really positive in that is that if you are conscious that there are different points of view, and you try and see why people are seeing things in a certain way, then you can integrate the positive things into how you see things, and also the things that you don't agree with, you can perhaps understand why. And so it's one of these things where it keeps me up at night, because I'll see something on the news, right? I think, but why do they see it that way? Why? And I do some research. Yeah, you don't stop. You keep on going, and it comes back to this. For me, it's like an impulse thing. With ADHD, you don't know when to stop. Sometimes you have to know, okay, it's time to go to bed. Like, that's it. Tomorrow's another day, time to go to bed. But yeah, I mean, the failure, coming back to the failure with the German teacher, I mean, that was a big kick in the stomach, And ultimately, did she make a big difference in my life? Absolutely not.
But I think those things leave some traumas, anyways. Some like we said already, some resentment.
Yeah.
You need to know how to deal with those resentments in
Yeah.
your life in order to breathe again. I wanted to ask you a question. So, how was your life after you left the diplomat
That's a really good
with
question.
your family? Yeah. I mean, did you feel freedom? Any freedom? Did you
Ashamed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
Maybe ashamed is not the right word, but it was shock. Because when you are the son of a diplomat, or in my case, I was the son of the ambassador. So, and it's not something I like to say, because when people say, oh, you were the son of the ambassador, they think, oh, you're privileged. The reality was that I was just a boy from Malta that had an Italian mom and a Maltese dad, and we were lucky enough to travel the world. It was just so fortunate that it was a certain job where I got to experience certain things. People will hear the word ambassador and think, oh, look, a snob. The amount of times that happens, I don't even say it that much. I try and figure out my audience first, But the biggest thing is when you're in that environment, I wouldn't say controlled, but it's all very standard. You have the house that's always clean. You have a housekeeper. You have a driver. You have security. You have, which in our case wasn't all the time, but you have someone, it's a 7-year-old. I had someone making my bed every day. I had someone that made sure my room was tidy every day. But what was very good, and my parents were fantastic at this. They always told me, listen, this life that we're living, it's not normal. This is a very big exception. We're very privileged to have this, So still, my mom would go to the supermarket to do her own groceries. That she would cook herself. She would, she would take me up for what? Just being normal. But then as you get older, you start to forget what it was like before. And then especially when you're 7 years old. I mean, you don't really remember how it was when we were 5. So when I was, what was that? 14, when the government changed. I went from, and people will think like, what the hell is this guy? This kind of life that he was living. But the reality was that I was living a life where there was a housekeeper, a driver, cleaners, someone that did all my laundry, and went from one day to the next, gone. Now the biggest thing in that,
and we're like left barefoot at the
end. Completely barefoot, and not to say that I was frozen. For me, the biggest thing was because of what happened. I had built very close personal relationships with the staff members of the embassy, and the driver would pick me up from school after training, for example. He would come half an hour early to watch me train, He was like an older brother to me, and it's just this thing, like, have the common decency to just tell the family, because it's a family that they have to move country. Don't tell them 2 weeks before. Give them the time for some clothes. So, and I think for me, the worst part was that I was going back to the same school with the same friends, in the same country after the change in Berlin, because it's not maybe that nice to say, but before I was the son of the ambassador, now I was a nobody. I didn't really care. I mean, I was me. People, if they don't like me for me, then
they will look at you different.
Yeah, I think it was, for me, it was the accepting part of it. I was so hurt by what happened before. I was angry. Very angry. I mean, I remember one time the school psychologist actually said that we might have to consider not allowing Andrea to play football because he's so angry that if someone sets him off, he may get overly aggressive. I mean, that's how angry I was, right?
And for a kid, that's
Oh yeah. The reason why I was so angry, especially in the football setting, was because that was my safe space. And anyone that tried to get into the way of it, they were gonna have a problem. And it happened a few times where someone would at training, a teammate of mine, scoff or be laughing all around. For me, training was my safe space, football was my safe space, and I excelled. Someone don't screw with me on that. It was my very safe space. And I used to really get angry, and people were afraid of me because of it. Which is wrong, but if I reflect back, I was protecting myself, and that was where I felt safe. So yeah, I mean,
so what happened when you came back to Malta?
that was difficult. When I came back to Malta, I was just coming off a very successful season playing football, and they didn't want me to leave. They asked me to stay, but I needed my family. And I told myself, if football's meant to be, I'll get another chance again. And when I came back to Malta, I had a trial with the national team. My life was mostly football focused when I was growing up. My parents, we found a school that I could go to here. And even that was difficult because I left in the middle of the year. And at the time, there are IB schools in Malta, but the IB is only the last 2 years. And I was in a IB World School where there's IB from kindergarten all the way up to when you're 18. And it was the last year before you do the last 2 years. So it was really a critical time. Anyway, they sent me to school here, which was okay. And then I had to do another change. But when I came back here, it was a decision that we had made together as a family very quickly because I wanted to be with my family. I wanted my parents. I wanted to be, we just all wanted to be together. We knew that that's what we needed. And it was about rebuilding. It was about rebuilding the stability of home, making it, this is where we feel safe. This is, we're gonna come back here and we're gonna rebuild ourselves. I mean, I remember I went to a couple of psychologists. We all did because we were all hurt, especially at that time. Within that time was terrible because we're still talking within 2 years when my uncle died. And then my father lost his job. So it was this whole thing of trauma that just didn't and then eventually got resolved. But coming back to Malta for me was, from a family side, great. From a football side and a school side, terrible.
And what about society? What about how things work here, especially compared to Berlin and China?
Close-minded, completely close-minded. I really enjoy being around people with different cultures, different nationalities, different religions, for argument's sake. And I found myself in a place where everyone's the same. I mean, I don't want to talk down, but I was thinking, okay, I gotta go here and there. It was the same thing all the time. People complaining about this, people complaining about that. And I think, and they're building here and they're building there. There was just no stop to it. And you're trying to rebuild, and it's just, I felt like a fish out of water. And then with time, that kind of changed. I had changed schools again, and then I found my place. My football wasn't going too well. I had to do a couple of changes there as well, and then it was okay. But my ultimate goal when I came back was to leave. It was bad to say, but I wanted to leave again, and I knew I wanted to go to university in the UK, and I knew that to do that I had to do the last 2 years of IB. And to do that, I would have had to repeat a whole school year because the IB diploma is a 2-year program. So you can't do it in 1 year. It's impossible because there are certain assessments that you have to do. You have to, there's one thing, it's called an internal assessment. For example, I had to do it at a business management class. And the internal assessment is done, most of the writing and the research was done in the summer of the first and the second year of the 2 years. So it's the way it's planned. You can't do it in 1 year, right? And for me, that was the big thing because I was always playing with that thought in my head when I was a teenager. Am I good enough to do IB? Can I get there? Because I always saw IB as this big thing. And I looked at my dad at one point. I said, "Listen, you've given me this wonderful education. I really want to do this. If I don't do it, I would for the rest of my life keep on saying I should have done that. I should have done that." And I went and I did it. And the sense of accomplishment I got from it was fantastic. And to top it all off, when I went and applied for universities, I went to the University of Portsmouth. I actually went there after I had applied to see the university. And I met my teachers of the faculty because I'd studied sports science. I met the head of the department. I met some of the professors there who ended up all being my teachers. And I didn't make the grade on the offer that they had offered me.
Yeah.
And so they had actually told us, whatever happens to the grades, just call us. So that within that hour, I was in London when I got my grades. My parents were in Malta, and I was on the phone with my dad, and I missed the grade by 1 mark out of all subjects in Italian. And my mother is Italian, and I speak mother tongue Italian. I missed it by, and we even paid for the paper to be regraded because it's something you can do, and they kept the mark. It was ridiculous. So anyway, within that hour, we called the university, the head of the department, still there. His name's Richard Thelwell. I spoke to my dad. He said, "Oh yeah, Carl. No, I saw it. No, we're going to change the offer to unconditional. I want him as a student."
But listen, at the end, that influence that you have, that it worked.
It's not even. I just went and showed myself, but I wanted to go there. It's one of those things where you decide if you want to do something, put yourself to it.
And there is a question that came to my mind right now. And how do you deal with emotions by having ADHD? How does it feel? Or how do they come to your mind? Or how do you feel them in your body?
Sometimes physically, when I'm stressed, I tend to eat a lot. So if I'm stressed, I'll stress eat. But the biggest thing is overthinking. If I'm anxious, if I don't know what's going to happen, just stick overthinking. But to a certain extent, I mean, there's some people that overthink, should I leave my cup like this or like this? They just go. That drives me nuts. People are like that. I'm just like, really. But the thing is, are you, if you're confident in something and you do something and you know that's now it's done, will you leave it like that?
The problem is that for example, in my job, I work with a team.
Yeah.
And I cannot control everything that they do around me.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? When they do something that I don't like, that for my eyes is not good, I lose it.
Yeah.
So I want everything my way.
But then,
that's where my OCD comes, and I get super anxious. For example, if I see something on the floor, it's dirty, and no one does it. And I'm like, no one notices, and I'm doing something else. And I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
I start getting anxious, If it's there for too long, oh my gosh.
Drives you crazy. That's actually that expression you just did. That's another one. When I'm anxious, weight on my chest.
Is it weight on your chest? But this action of, like, you overbreathe with
you hyperventilate.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I start hyperventilating.
Really?
Crazy. But I've been trying to learn, how to deal with that, how to be more flexible.
I think.
Not for the others, for myself.
For yourself, yeah.
Then I need to have mercy on myself.
Yeah.
And that's part of the healing process as well.
I think also, the job that I do, I work within a team, and I work in anti-money laundering. I've been doing this now for 5 years, and I love what I do. There isn't one day that's the same, and it's a lot of, sometimes it's very mundane, like just inputting information, but a lot of times it's understanding how certain things work and then applying, our policies and procedures. But one of the things that drives me nuts is when I know how something should be done, or if I was doing it, I would do it in a certain way with certain levels of detail. Not, it doesn't always have to be the same, but to hit certain points. And people don't, not where I work now, but in the past, people they just don't see it. Just read what you have to do and just follow the instructions. It drives me nuts. But at some point I said, I just can't do this anymore. I can't keep on telling myself, why isn't this person doing it this way? Let them do it. But then I have another problem, because then if they screw up and then I have to go and fix it, now that gets me angry. Do it right the first time. So, I don't want to sound like discuss it. That's one of the things I love in my job. It's funny because if we have team meetings and we discuss a new regulation that came in, we all have a slightly different perspective. And now if we have a half-hour slot to discuss something, there are times when we're still 4 or 5 hours in, not just debating. And it's this thing again of different points of view that I just really like. So I had to learn just how to let go.
Okay. And did you ever go to psychological therapy?
Yeah, a lot.
Do you still go? Or?
I've got a psychiatrist that I see once a year. But when I was a teenager, I'm trying to think how many.
Recently, in the last 5 years, did you ever?
Yeah, I did.
And how does it feel? How does it feel for you? What do you think it's therapy for you? What does it mean for you?
Therapy.
Yeah, like psychological therapy.
Maintenance.
Okay.
So there's this. So you know how in Europe or in the West, let's say, you go to a doctor when something's wrong, and you go to doctor. Okay, if you break a bone, go to doctor. You have to. But say, for example, you go to a doctor because you can't get out of bed anymore, right? And then you go to a doctor and say, oh, it's because you have a slip disc in your back. I'm just throwing an example out there. In Asia, they have completely different mentality. You maintain your body. You don't wait for it to break, right? And for me, that's the same kind of thing with mental health and therapy. If you know that you're going to go through a hard period or you've come out of a hard period, for me, there's no shame. I advocate all the time for therapy and just talking about feelings. A lot of people don't. A lot of people they feel ashamed. But the reason that's a completely different issue. I always think, I'm stressed. I can talk about it to people that I'm comfortable with, very close people. But there's just some things where you need to talk to a professional outside of your inner circle.
Someone neutral.
Someone neutral and someone who, someone who's trained in these things, that they will help you to unbox all these different feelings. Because my experience with this is, okay, I say I feel angry, okay, but why are you feeling angry? Yeah, and you keep on discussing things, and then you realize, I didn't realize it went this deep, and there's no harm in talking. There's no harm, because ultimately, if you don't talk about it, you're gonna end up burning all your relationships. Piles up inside, and then you lash out. You lash out at people that don't deserve to get lashed out. So, for me, it's this whole thing of maintenance where, you have a car and you don't buy a new car and then let it break. You maintain it.
Go change the oil.
Exactly. Change the oil, change the brake.
Go change the tires.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of one off.
Yeah.
I got you. I like it.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We came to the point that we need to.
Yeah.
At that point of mental health.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that you're here today with me.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for this moment.
Me too. I really enjoyed it.
I don't know if you want to add something else.
Yeah. That just keep the podcast going. I think it's great.
Thank you. And let's see if some other people want to open up.
I hope.
About their feelings, their lives. I think this is a safe space at the end.
Yeah.
Where we can talk about anything. I've been through really hard times myself too.
Yeah.
And I think the only way for us to do better in life, to output in the best way we can, we need to talk about the film.
Yeah, for sure.
So everyone who is watching us, invited.
Yeah.
Podcast and
yeah, for sure. Thanks. I really enjoyed it. I'm really happy. I walked into the coffee shop one day and met you, So yeah, that's great.
Coffee shop brought me everything that I have right now.
Yeah. It's funny. You have one of these every morning. Yeah, serious. One of these every morning and look at where it gets you.